I know what this is. Mrs. Wood, Eagle, Wisconsin, from the Wisconsin Supreme Court. The stamp is October 13th, 1885. I don't want to even look at this. I know what it says in there. It's hard to believe that it's been 9 years already. Let's see, it all started back in 1876. Charlie and me were living on a little farm near the Catholic Church on that hill over there. We were renting a piece of land from Mr. Devereaux. Did you know Mr. Devereaux? He was kind of a skinny little fellow. Well, he was slow to get anything done, and our well was giving out, and we were having a lot of problems. Charlie talked to him so many times, and finally he agreed to send some men. So Mr. Wilford showed up with 3 men, and they started digging, and they were there. This was the 3rd day already, and they still haven't gotten down to water. When I saw Mr. Wilford look down, and he picked something up, and he kind of brushed it off, and he walked over to me, and he said, "Here, I think you would like this." And I put it in my hand, and I looked at it, and it was a little pretty stone. It was about the size of a canary egg. It was kind of round on one side, and it was sort of the color of straw. Well, I had forgotten about that stone. I put it in a box with my good pin, actually this pin here, and I think it was about 1883 when my pin was broken, and I knew there was a jeweler in Milwaukee. So I took the early train into Milwaukee. That's 40 miles, and if you took that in a buggy, that's a long trip. Well, I knew the jewelry shop and the watch repair shop was someplace on Grand Avenue. So I walked until I found it, and I put my little pin on the counter, and I asked the jeweler, I said, "Can you fix this?" And he looked at it, and he said, "Sure, I think I can." And that was the first time that I met Mr. Boynton. And while I was there, I thought I would ask him about my pretty little stone. So I showed it to him, and he asked me, and he said, "What is it?" That's funny for a jeweler to say, "What is it?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. A neighbor told me he thought it could be a topaz." And he looked at it, and he said, "Well, you know, it could be." He held it in his hand for a long time, and he said, "Where did you find this?" And I said, "Oh, in Eagle." He asked me, "In the town?" I said, "No, it was in the village." He said, "You know, I have a collection of gems. I would like to buy this." I said, "Well, how much would you give me for it?" And he said, "Oh, I would give you $1. And I thought, no, that was in September, and I thought, no, I'll keep my pretty little stone. Well, you know, 1883 was a bad year for me. Charlie was gone. By December, I was really short of money. I asked some places in Waukesha if they would buy my pretty little stone, and they weren't interested. So I went back to Milwaukee, and I said, "Would you still like to buy my stone?" And he said, "How much did I tell you I would give you for it?" I said, "Well, you told me $1. And just like that, he reached in a drawer, he got out $1, he handed it to me, and he took my stone. I didn't know about any of this until later, but in January, Mr. Boynton hightailed it to Chicago. He went to see a friend of his that was a diamond expert, and his friend told him that this was a diamond of the highest water, worth $700. Can you imagine that? The next thing you know, Mr. Boynton comes out to Eagle with some men, and they start looking around, and they're asking, you know, where did I live? But by this time, I didn't live there anymore. In fact, the place we lived at had even burned down. So Mr. Boynton and his friends took some soil samples, and they took it to another friend who happened to be an expert, and he told him that it was diamond-bearing soil. Well, the next thing you know, this lawyer comes to Eagle. He buys Mr. Devereaux's land. First thing he does, he puts a big cloth fence around it. Now, the people of Eagle were getting pretty nosy, and they were wondering what was going on. So he told them that he was going to have a chicken ranch. In fact, he was even going to have Plymouth Rock and Leghorn chickens. Well, I'll tell you, the villagers got a good laugh out of that, because if he thought that black cloth was going to keep the chickens in and the coyote and the fox out, he was badly mistaken. Then the truth came out, that they were actually digging a mine, and that my pretty little stone was actually a diamond. I was so mad, I didn't know what to do. So I went and I talked to a lawyer, and he said, well, you know what you do? You go and offer him $1 and make it $1.10, and that would cover the interest, and tell him you want your stone back. I did that, but of course, he refused. Mr. Boynton had set up a mining company, and even the mayor of Milwaukee, Mr. Stowell, invested in it. So my lawyer filed a case with the Milwaukee Circuit Court. But what chance did I have? A farm woman from Eagle against Mr. Boynton, who was a Civil War veteran. He was a politician. He was a friend of the mayor. And I actually heard that he was also a man about town. So we lost, and my lawyer filed a suit with the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Now, as soon as the word got out that Eagle became a mining town, people came from all over. And everyone was trying to buy land, and everyone was looking for diamonds. Some people were so crazy they even wanted to change the name to Diamond City or to Diamondville. And problems were starting to happen with the mine. You know how it gets here in April. It started to rain, the mine was full of water. The newspapers were coming out, the Milwaukee Journal, the Milwaukee Sentinel, the Freeman. They were writing stories almost every single day. And of course, every time they did, more people came. And more people were looking and trying to find diamonds. In May, 2 more diamonds were found. Well, the excitement just continued. June, some more diamonds were found again, and people were just coming like crazy. I think it was in December of 1884 that Mr. Coons came all the way from New York City. He came on the train. He was a diamond expert, and he wanted to see the diamonds that were found in Eagle. And he looked at them and he said, these are African diamonds. They're white. They're not like the original diamond that was found. They could not have come from here. Well, that did it. Everyone realized that somebody was doing something to add these diamonds. The mine closed down. Everybody started to go away. Nobody was sued. Nobody was accused of anything. All the miners left, and that was the end. And now I have this letter, and I know what it says. I lost the case in the Supreme Court in Madison. When I think about how much money that diamond cost, I could just cry.